Hi guys, welcome to Little Wicket Railway. I'm Rob and in this video we're reviewing the Hornby Stephenson Rocket Train Pack. Now I'm a little bit late to the party with this one because the train pack was released about 6 months ago and I was a bit reluctant to buy it, but I'm desperate to unbox it, so I'll explain why after we've had a look at the model. This arrived in the post this morning. I've opened it up just to double check that everything was in there, but I've taken nothing out of the box and nothing's been run yet, so this will be the first time. Let's just take a quick look at the outside of the box before we open it up. So obviously it says Rocket, Liverpool and Manchester Railway Stephenson's Rocket, 00 gauge train pack. Nothing too special about the outside. I like the colours. Got the Railway Museum support on there as well. And then on the back, nothing particularly interesting there. It just says it's Hornby reference R3810. So let's open up the front. And what I really like, on the left hand side here, you've got some history. So I'm not going to read it out. What I'll do is feel free to pause that and have a read if you can. But we'll carry on and look at the model, and then I'll do a bit of a history lesson while showing you some pictures of the model shortly. Okay, so let's start by taking this out in the box. So what do? Try this bottom end. Really careful because I want to keep the box in mint condition if I can. These flaps seem like they could rip at any moment. There we go. Oh, and we've got some sort of foam packaging rather than the usual polystyrene or plastic. There we go, she's out the box. Don't know if she's a she actually or a he. Rocket. I suppose that could be, that's gender neutral really, isn't it? So we've got this plastic face covering, we'll take that off. And on the back here, I just want to look at the model, but let's hold off for a second. We've got some general instructions here, some running hints, maintenance, points where to lubricate, how to put your, this comes with two little figures, so how to fit your figures, how to fit your DCC decoder, and some safety notes on the back. So we'll put that to one side as well, and let's have a look at the model. So it looks really neat. The first thing is it's teeny tiny. It's really small. So you obviously get the Stephenson Rocket Locomotive, which sort of comes with the main locomotive and the tender. And you've got the three coaches in here. So they're each individually named. You've got Globe, Renown and Wellington. And the livery looks really nice. So let's have a quick look at the locomotive to start with. And as I said, I have read about this, but I've deliberately tried to avoid watching any videos. And I did read that it is quite fragile, and it looks quite fragile just because it's tiny. The tender is connected with wires to the main locomotive, and there we go, we're out the box. So here we are. Try and get it to focus on that. As I say, I will show you some more detailed photos after we've quickly opened it. So look at this. Wow, there's a really cool amount of detail there. Hornby have already released the Rocket train pack in the 1960s and the 1980s, but this is a brand new tooling, so you'd expect the detail and the quality to look really good. You've got the water barrel on the back, the coal load, you can see a couple of holes where the figures are going to fit in, and the detail on the front is really nice. You've got lots of different fixtures and fittings on there that have all been picked out in the different colours. These wires, I can see why people say it's delicate. If I was a kid, I think I'd have broken those within the first 10 minutes if I was playing with this back in the day. Interesting how the tender connects to the main body of the locomotive. You see there's just a little peg there. It looks long enough so that it will stay attached if it goes over small bumps and things. We've also got these 4 wires that run between the tender and the locomotive to connect the decoder to the motor. Quick look at pickups. You've got some on the front here, some on the set further back, and some on the tender wheels. So pickups on all 4 sets of wheels, which is really good. The decoder sits in the barrel. It's a 6-pin decoder, and then the motor is hidden in the boiler at the front. And just look at these little pistons here. I can't wait to get it on the track and see how this all works. Have a quick look down the chimney. Well, that looks really neat, so I'll pop that down for a second. Let's have a quick look at some of the coaches. Again, these already look pretty impressive with their colouring. So, yeah, I really like, there's so much detail in here with little wire. So that's globe. So much detail with all the little wire surrounds. And look how easy that could be to just bend out of shape. That's already moved slightly. Yeah, again, these are little tiny, so I love the little footstep. Presumably those are steps up so you can get into the carriages. The door handles are picked out in different colours. You've got the Liverpool, Manchester livery on there, railway company in the middle. The buffers, the little rods go all the way through there. Yeah, it's a really nice amount of detail. The little lamps that drop in at the top. And then even on the inside, I don't know if you see, I'll try and take some photos, but they've got some sort of interior seating, so 6 seats, and they've put in a bit of detail on the inside as well. I'll try and take some photos of those. So not immediately obvious how they connect because they don't have standard couplings, so I assume there's going to be something in here that connects those together. Maybe in here? Yes, so well, these are interesting. So they're kind of like fake, I don't know whether they're metal or plastic. So these are little plastic connectors, and it looks like they just hook on between the coaches. So let's show you. You see there's a little hook on the end here. Presumably they just fit over there. So interesting to know how easy it is to put those together and how well they stay together. I can see maybe why people say this isn't a train that's going to get run very often and is more likely to be some sort of display piece. So when we've got our couplings, might as well get the final coach out, just have a look at that. This is basically the same as the other three, but with the individual name on. Wheel spin nice and freely. So that would go there. And then presumably these are the little people. So we've got a guy with his little shovel there who's going to be moving the coal. And this fella who is going to be driving things up the front. So that's really nice because they're all pre-painted, ready to go. Not something you regularly see with Hornby models. So I will now take some photos and show those to you and give you a bit of a history lesson at the same time. Rocket was designed by Robert Stephenson and built to take part in the Rainhill trials held by the Liverpool and Manchester Railway in October 1829. Previously, stationary steam engines would pull the carriages along using a cable. The trials were set up to demonstrate that locomotives, primarily steam locomotives, were the future for railway travel and to show what they were capable of. The trials involved completing 10 journeys up and down a 1.5 mile stretch of track, and they had to average over 10 miles an hour. There was a prize of £500 for the winner, which is about £40,000 in today's money. Rocket was up against 4 other locomotives: Brandreth's Cyclopod, which was a horse on a treadmill; Ericsson and Braithwaite's Novelty; Birstall's Perseverance; and Hackworth's Sans Péré. Thousands turned out to see the trials, and although Novelty was the crowd's favourite, Rocket was the only engine to complete the challenge and took the prize. Stephenson chose the bold yellow and black design that we're so familiar with and associate with Rocket to match the first-class stagecoaches of the day. He wanted people to look at Rocket and think luxury travel. If you've got access to BBC iPlayer and you want to see a replica of Rocket at Rainhill, then check out a programme called The Great Railway Cavalcade, Rocket 150 at Rainhill. It's from the 1980s and it is one for the enthusiasts, but there's a lot of history in there, and if you like your steam locomotives, you'll probably enjoy it. Rocket wasn't the first steam locomotive to be built, but it was the first to include design elements which would form the basis of steam locomotives for the next 150 years. The real Rocket was preserved and is on display in the National Railway Museum at York, although it looks very different now from the striking yellow and black that we see in the model. Although the museum do have a working replica that is still in the yellow and black. Okay, I wasn't going to film this part because I thought, you know what, I'll just pop the decoder in and then we can give it a try, but oh my word, this is proving difficult. So this top bit of the barrel is meant to just come away, and then you neatly slot the decoder in according to the instructions, and the socket just stays in place and it all looks great until you try and do it and the whole barrels come off. There's wires everywhere. How on earth do you fit something? Ugh. So I've been trying for about 15-20 minutes already. I've got to get the barrel back in. There are 4 little slots that it sits in, so I think I need to get that in first. But if you put that in, then the socket goes too high and then the whole thing won't close. So I know this is a small model, but it really could have, there are smaller ways of doing decoders. Okay, I'm going to get back to it. Quick update on the decoder fitting. Finally managed to get it in, and my advice is to ignore the instructions, which suggests it kind of goes in this way, and lay it flat. So lay the socket flat in the bottom of the barrel and then lay the decoder flat on top. I might put a bit of insulating tape just between the two because they're both exposed, but that is the only way I could get it to neatly fit in. Finally managed to get the decoder in, but no response, and that's when I noticed, and presumably this has happened whilst I was putting the decoder in because it was a bit of a struggle. I don't know whether you can see, but there is a wire there that has come loose, which will now need to be soldered. So yeah, I can see why they say these are fragile, and so far it's not been an enjoyable experience. Okay, so I finally got the decoder in the locomotive, but it was super painful. And I also have fixed the loose connection between the loco and the tender, which I'm not sure whether I did that or it was like that when it arrived, but I'm not impressed with the quality of soldering. I think they've put some glue on top to try and hold the wires in place, but this wire obviously isn't covered by the glue, so it's just come off. But anyway, it's fixed now. Let's see whether this runs. And she's going. Okay, so that's about half power. Yeah, she runs really smoothly. Okay, let's take it back down. I keep saying she. I have no idea whether it's actually a she or not. Rocket could be a boy. That's about 10%. That is really impressive. To think that there is a tiny decoder and a tiny motor in there. I really like that. Okay, so she's working. Okay, it's running really quietly and smoothly, so that's good. We'll just let it run in for a minute. Stating the obvious here, it's not going to be very powerful. It's only got one set of driving wheels. It only weighs 46 grams because it's mainly made of plastic. So I think the 3 coaches it comes with are probably going to be its limit, and I'd be surprised if it could go up any inclines. Quick update on the couplings, they are incredibly frustrating. They're very fiddly to fit, they come undone really easily. You get 5 in the pack, 3 longer ones and 2 shorter ones for some reason. There's a shorter one. I don't think they look particularly realistic, and they are just a source of frustration. So it's a thumbs down for me on these couplings. It wouldn't have taken much to just design something that held them in place slightly better. So as I said at the start, this actually came out 6 months ago, and I was slow to buy it because I wasn't sure whether I wanted it or not. Firstly, it's expensive, $179.99, and not many places would do a discount on that. Secondly, it's Era 1. It doesn't fit in with my layout at all, and that means it probably won't get run very often. And thirdly, I'd read that it was pretty fragile, and I buy trains to run and enjoy, not to keep them in boxes or display cases. So what changed my mind? Well, firstly, I'd seen a couple of documentaries on Rocket, and I was starting to get into the history of the locomotive, and I like to own models that have history associated with them. Secondly, I think this is a bit of an investment. The models from the 60s and the 80s have retained their value really well, and if this isn't going to get run very often and I can keep it in mint condition, then it should at least retain its value. Thirdly, it's unique. These don't come out very often, and there is only one Rocket, so I didn't want to miss the opportunity. So did I make the right decision? Well, I'm not so sure. It's a beautiful, unique, detailed locomotive with lots of history associated with it, and when it's running smoothly, it really is rewarding. But it's got its fair share of issues that I think Hornby probably could have addressed. Fitting the decoder is a nightmare until you ignore the instructions. The wires between the tender and the locomotive are too delicate and fragile. They come away too easily, and they shouldn't just be held in place with a bit of solder. The couplings are useless. They don't look particularly realistic, they take ages to fit, and they come undone too easily. The painting on the figures wasn't up to scratch, and this isn't all Hornby's fault. Stephenson can share the blame on this one, but it's only got 1 pair of driving wheels, which means it isn't very powerful. It's not a very heavy model either, so it can't pull very much, and it certainly won't be going up any inclines. As someone who likes to run their trains, it's a bit disappointing that this is probably going to spend most of its life in its box. It's the type of model that almost deserves its own layout specifically designed for it. But that does mean that on the rare occasion that I do get this out, it's going to be a really special experience. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, then please give me a like and a subscribe, and I will hopefully see you again soon.